Welcome to another week of Reddit Overwatch University questions. Top of voted of the week. Here we go. First question is, why is Widowmaker so popular despite having a consistently low win rate across all ranks? According to Overbuff, Widow has the highest pick rate out of all the DPSs in every single rank in the game, but also is always one of the worst in terms of win rate. I thought it was because she was a high skill floor, so newer players bring down the win rate, but that wouldn't explain why it's so low in high ranks like Grandmaster, where people should know what they're doing. If she's so seemingly bad according to her win rate, then why do so many people play her? Is she genuinely a meta pick, or are people just playing her because she's fun? Also, before anyone goes on a passive aggressive rant how it doesn't matter how good a hero is, you should play who you enjoy. I already know that. It's not that serious. I'm just gonna keep playing her either way. I'm literally just curious. Okay, I'm gonna stop you right at the beginning with Overbuff and highest pick rate. I don't think this is true. Number one, Overbuff isn't necessarily that accurate. It only tracks public profiles. And number two, anecdotally, I feel like most people here would also say Widowmaker probably isn't the most picked DPS. Probably like a above average pick for sure. A lot of people start with Widow, but then they probably often switch, and that may be conducive to lowering the win rate. Like you pick it until it doesn't work and then you swap when things are going south. Some Widows who are just dominating all game can pick it and pop off, but then you'll have Widows who will play it for like 10 minutes of a match and then swap at the end when it's losing, and they're already on the downtrend if they're losing, and sometimes that swap isn't enough. So that could also skew it. So that may contribute to some of the win rate statistics. And then probably number three, I mean, people will just play her regardless because she's fun. She's a sniper. I mean, I just sometimes come out as Widow for a few shots and then I'll swap over, and then the game is up to, you know, fate. I'll play her for like a minute or two depending on how the map's going. If I'm really popping off, I'll play her the whole round, and then if things aren't going well, like they swap the Sombra, they swap the ball, making my life a nightmare, you have to swap off. I wouldn't say she's generally a meta pick, but she's actually not bad in this specific meta because you have to ignore the tanks and just snipe their backlines. But yeah, not hard meta. People just play her because she's fun. And then I said my point about the stats. Is Lifeweaver actually bad? Recently, I've been playing more Lifeweaver in quick play, and I've been enjoying him. I like the way his abilities work and the fact that he does 80 healing per burst, because then I'm less reliant on my other support helping, and they can go Lucio or Zen and go have fun if they want. But I've heard people say that Lifeweaver is a bad character to play, and that he just isn't worth putting time into. I want to know if I should put effort into learning more about him. I'm only a gold and plat level player, so when I play support, I normally have to pick BAP or Ana to keep my teammates alive because some people are just a bit more silly than they should be. I think Lifeweaver's healing output and the fact that his abilities can help people reposition or get from danger is fun. I think he's fun to play and isn't as useless as people say he is, so should I put time into learning him or not? And if so, where's a good place to start learning? Thank you. To me, I actually don't think Lifeweaver is that bad. He's kind of like he's okay-ish, a little bit below mid for me, but like certainly not as bad as some other heroes that you could be picking in the game. You're right about the fact that he offers a lot of raw healing and potential repositioning. And at the end of the day, you should probably just play heroes that you have fun with. That's the best way to ensure you don't burn out. And you can certainly play this hero to quite a high rank. There's quite a few Lifeweaver players who have now established themselves as a top 500 player. Unfortunately, you will still get flamed by players who just always believe that value is better by playing another hero that has more utility, but utility is a bit of a general term. Like utility is a tool to help you win a team fight, but you can win a team fight if you're keeping up a player and making, you know, saving them from mistakes. This patch is all about pocketing the tanks. So if there's any time to play Lifeweaver, it is this patch. The tanks are all super buffed and Lifeweaver can pocket them very well and just pull that one tank who's making a bad error. So yeah, I don't think he's that useless. I think it's fine to put time into playing him, but I guess a better choice if you were to ask me is probably to play Ana. A good place to start learning is maybe watch my Lifeweaver Mythbusters on my main channel to learn a couple of his interactions and go from there. What counts as a negated ultimate for Orisa? In-game, one of the stats for Orisa is ultimates negated, but nothing I do ever seems to count. I've used Fortify to walk out of Graviton Surge, Cage Fight, Whole Hog, Earth Shatter, and Gravitic Flux. I've used Javelin to stun Junker Queen, Mei, Sombra, Moira out of vault, but I've never seen this counter go up. What exactly has to happen for an ultimate to be counted as negated? Is this just a broken stat? What an easy, simple question. All it is the Javelin spin suck. When you Javelin spin, all incoming projectiles get eaten, so you have to eat a projectile ultimate. So that's what? Graviton Surge, Hanzo, Dragon Strike, the initial arrow, things like that will count as ultimates negated for stat farming. Next question. This one's pretty good. Rein-Tracer-Reaper-Moira-Mercy on your team. who should be pushing the payload. I was the Reaper on the team and it was a pretty easy win, so there wasn't much strategy or optimal team comp switching going on. Mostly it was either 4 people on cart with Tracer being in the backline or Reaper and Mercy. Because the enemy had a Sombra, so I didn't want to go too far. In my honest opinion though, the only reason this worked was because the Sombra was extremely not good. 4 people on cart with Tracer being in the offensive backline. Very interesting with a Moira-Mercy. Anyways, I'm not going to pick apart the comp, but if you want the raw answer, generally speaking, your Tracer can be your best bet to push the cart in a lot of scenarios because she's one of the most flexible heroes to leave the cart and join the team fight, while the rest of your team is supposed to be pushing up and taking space correctly to deny good positioning for the defending team. Example I always use is like Hollywood second point. Because there's so much high ground to take, it's very important to bring your team up to a safe area to attack correctly. Having Tracer be able to fly, perfect candidate. In some cases, I've done it as Kiriko to push, where my team could, establish themselves and I can TP up, but burning a TP is a little rough compared to like Tracer. Sometimes D.Va pushes, because D.Va can fly right up. It really depends, but in this specific scenario, it would probably be Tracer. The takeaway point is the hero that is the safest to escape and rejoin the team fight. That's the final answer. I just found out the hard way that over many confusing losses that Zenyatta's orbs disappear after a set time of having terrain between him and his targets. Since this kind of information isn't available anywhere in-game, is there some resource you know of that has all of these very important details documented? I'm a new player 4 hours or so in. It feels weird that in a game as expansive as this, we only get basic outlines to everyone's abilities. I get not wanting to overload new players with a bunch of info, but there isn't even a glossary with extra details you can look at in the game. I also understand the play and learn or spend hours in the practice range mentality, but it's going to suck going in blind with a new character and continuously having the game working against you until you figure out mechanics that should have been explained in the first place. Oh, and they figured out it was a wiki. Okay, so the thing you're talking about, Zenyatta's orb disappearing, is line of sight of your target. That's true. This is not available in the game, and something that I've been advocating for Overwatch to do is to have an advanced stat screen baked into the game. You can have the simplified hero info screen by pressing F1 or whatever it is on console, and then maybe a second toggle to actually show the raw numbers of the current patch. And if they're baked into the game, it shouldn't be hard to pull that data. HP always changes per patch and people buff with damage, nerf damage, but if that's baked into the code, why can't that be displayed in an advanced tooltip? They just need the right person at Blizzard to like actually work on this product for them. But I digress. Is there some important resource you know that has this implemented or documents detailed, important details documented? It is the wiki. You found it here. Overwatch Wiki is your best bet. And I guess one final thing for Zenyatta is, just because you mentioned Zen, and I play a lot of Zen, the orbs disappear after 5 seconds of not having resetting the line of sight of the person you have Harmony orb on. So if you have it on a Tracer, your friendly Tracer, and she blinks around the corner and fights for a bit, she can actually fight for a bit, recall, and she'll still have it as long as she re-peeks your direct line of sight at any point. You yourself don't actually have to be looking at her to refresh the line of sight of your orb. If I am looking here as Zenyatta, my Tracer's over here, but can still technically, like, both characters in the game environment have direct line of sight. That counts as still having the maximum orb timer. Then if the Tracer breaks line of sight or the Zen breaks line of sight, the timer will start internally counting up. If it ever goes past 5 seconds of no line of sight of the characters, then it'll the orb will reset. This is a good tip for not only Tracer, but maybe like a Pharah, for example, because some players think that when they friendly orb their Pharah in the distance, they actually have to look up at her to refresh the timer. That's not the case. Pharah usually will always be able to refresh line of sight to Zenyatta, so there's not to worry about keeping the orb off of her, having the orb expire on her. Discord orb's a different beast though. I think it's only 1.5 seconds now on an enemy, where they have to break line of sight of you as a Zenyatta, and then the orb disappears, and then you can't reapply the Discord orb for about 7 seconds. These are the details you'll probably find in the wiki, but just thought I'd throw that out there for those listening and want to learn some Zenyatta tips. Is Ashe a good pick now that Cassidy is nerfed? I'm a silver DPS, but I have a decent aim. I liked Cassidy for a long time, but I'm frustrated by my inability to do damage since they nerfed the fall off. Seems like I have to be right up in someone's face to do anything, and I prefer playing at mid-range. Is Ashe a good pick? Is it worth trying to learn her kit? Any tips or tricks from someone coming from Cassidy? Yes, yes, and yes. They did nerf the fall off, so he's a lot more situationally good, where you kind of have to let the enemy come into you, so he's still a fantastic pick against Tracer, a Doomfist, a Winston, a Ball, anybody that's forced to have to hard engage onto you. So Cass still has his niches, but if you like playing at mid-range, Ashe is can cover some of those bases there for the mid to long ranges. And it's fantastic because the dynamite ignores armor for the most part. Only -10 on the initial blast, not the tick, 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 tick. So Ashe is very good. They buffed Bob as well. So Bob has the DPS and the tank passive right now. Definitely worth learning the kit. One of the best hit scans to play on this patch. The tips and tricks are that gotta get used to the aim style a little bit. It's a little slower when you aim down sight, but you could definitely learn how to weave in between. Definitely go unscope for a bit when you're kind of like looking for a spot, and then unscope, boom, boom, into scope shots. But don't stay scoped for too long if you're being contested and shot back at, because you move a lot slower and it's a lot easier for them to kill you. If you do land a nice scoped in headshot, you can like unscope, get out of the aim down sights, and just finish them off with a couple of outside of scope body shots. And those are pretty good starter tips. Should you switch to the character that you don't play if they are the best choice? Yesterday, I played a match as Reinhardt and I went against a team full of characters that just get countered by Zarya, but there's a small problem. I have less than an hour of Zarya in my 300-hour account. I tried switching to my other mains, but we still got stomped at the second point. We played quick play escort, and my whole team went tank diff with the enemy diva saying, "Thanks for not switching to Zarya." So should I switch to the characters that I never play, or am I just bad at the game? Well, there's two answers to this. I would say no, you don't swap. If you just want to play for fun and you want to learn how to play into bad matchups and you love Reinhardt and that's your main, sure, if you're just playing for fun, don't swap. But if you want to swap to win in the situation and learn Zarya so you have a bit of a more flexible hero pool, then yeah, you can. Maybe on paper, Zarya can sort of counter D.Va because of the beam and the matrix, but like doesn't really hard counter that much. You might as well actually just play your main and focus on that. But if you do want to learn the Zarya, you're going to have to play her in many different scenarios, just like Rein. You're going to have to play them in uncomfortable situations as well, because you're not always going to have opportunities to swap conveniently. So playing against counters isn't necessarily even a bad thing for learning purposes. So there's no right answer to this. It's yes or no. If you swap to a character that you never play and you're not going to have fun, then no, you're playing quick play. Who cares? What comps do you think people will make with Juno? Juno feels like the devs looked at the mech games such as Armored Core and made a support hero out of that. Obviously, she doesn't have the depth of any Armored Core games, but at times I legit feel like a kid playing Armored Core 3, strafing and locking into multiple things. No bunny hopping though, which is kind of a bummer, but probably would be broken in Overwatch. I mean, you can actually bunny hop on Lucio. Anyways, with such a cool hero coming, what do y'all think our community is gonna concoct for comps involving her? My speculation is there'll be something I'll call the clock up comp, in which both teams will cycle Juno's ring and Lucio's amp for some devastating pushes. I can also see Juno obviously replacing Lucio in current rush comps involving him. And then for those who don't know, the speed boost is capped in Overwatch. However, if you sequence their major cooldowns, you can theoretically have your team constantly be quick. KarQ discusses, hey, that's me. Shoutouts to myself. Yeah. Every Juno ability. Full breakdown, guides, and tips on the main channel. Yeah, go watch that, guys. I mean, you're right. I think there's actually a couple of comps they could do. I mean, you pretty much nailed the two. There's going to be the Lucio Juno brawl/rush with like Queen, Ram, Rein. Any of them really work. Depends on what's the strongest on the patch, as long as you cycle the speed correctly. I actually think the full flyer comp actually has some merit to it as well, where you go, what, D.Va or Winston or Ball, like any sort of like fast. Not everybody needs to necessarily fly, but it's mostly just like the verticality and the movement. So like, yeah, Winston, D.Va, Ball, even Doom, and then you run Echo Pharah, plus Mercy, plus Juno. So you're just always just not on the ground. You just run people over. That's also an idea. And then just a standard brawl with Juno plus Bap, plus Kiri, plus Ana. It's hard to say, to be honest with you. It's still up in the air. I think people need to theory craft it actually a bit more when she actually fully comes out, if they tweak any of the numbers. Because as it stands, kind of like a mid-tier hero. Don't even know if she'd actually hard substitute out for some other heroes at this current time based on her current state and release date. Most people did say she's like okay-ish. I'm sure some teams will cook up something big, but those are a couple of ideas to get people started. The full flyer, the clock up, like you said, and some brawl replacement where you just opt out of Lucio and just play Kiri Juno or Bap Juno. If you're experienced, what separates a gold and platinum player from a diamond and masters player? In regards to solo queuing, what would you say separates a player from gold and plat compared to diamond? I used to play competitive Overwatch back in the day. From what I remember, what separated gold from plat was just better mechanical skill, positioning, and overall understanding when to be aggressive. I mean, like everything. There will be some, gold players that have diamond or masters level aim, but just bad everything else. Overwatch has a lot of different skills. that people can be better at or worse at, right? Raw aim, there's movement, there's your positioning, adaptation, timing, ultimate economy, alt tracking, overall understanding when to be aggressive, mistake punishing, proactive angles. But it would just be a bit of everything. And that, I think the biggest personal feeling that people have if you throw a gold player into a Masters lobby is they'll say the pacing or the tempo goes up. And what do they mean by that? It just means like if you just walk out where you're not supposed to, you just get shot at. And that applies pressure. It just feels like there's a million things flying at you the whole time. Whatever role you're at, if you're a support, somebody else is getting shot and you're like, oh my God, why is this person low? But why is this person low? And then if you're a tank, you're like, oh my God, like I'm getting shot if I like peek this cover when I'm not ready or if my DPS isn't ready to capitalize. So it's just overall pacing where everyone's always applying pressure. That's the biggest thing. In gold, you just don't feel it as much because like nobody punishes you for standing out in this X position, XYZ position. But if you play in a Masters game, if you step here, you just get shot at in this specific timing. So you just have to like adjust and adapt to the new style and the new tempo and the new aggression and their movement. Gold players have very predictable linear movement. It's really easy to shoot them down. But once you get to like Masters or higher, people are like maneuvering a lot more and it's a lot harder to shoot them. Final question, nice and easy. How does Briggs Inspire work? Been learning to fight Tracer, Sombra, Diva, Doom, whatever's that's jumping my silly little grandma, but how does Inspire actually work? Like, does it stack? Do I have to hit people constantly for the healing? Can I activate Inspire by hitting turrets or shields? I know Brig is anti-die, but can I play her in more aggressive comps? If so, how? Inspire works where if you as a Brig connect with an enemy player with a swing, with a shield bash, or a whip shot, Brig emanates a ring, an aura of healing. The radius is like, I don't actually know exactly what the radius, but it's pretty long. I would assume it's pretty similar to Lucio's aura. I have a video from back then called Ability Visualizers for every hero, and we actually visualized the Brig Inspire ring, but it is pretty big. You have to be in Brig's aura range the moment she makes contact for you to get the Inspire healing, which is whatever, 50, 60 HP over like 5 or 6 seconds. I don't know the exact numbers, but that's not important. What's important is maximizing your Inspire uptime. So like pretty much using whip shot whenever you can. If there's no dive and it's early, just poke the tank in the distance and anybody around you gets a bit of healing over time. 5 seconds is a long time. Use that as often as you can and pack the right people, and you'll find that it's very hard for enemies to kill people that are like playing within Brig's aura the whole time. Another important thing to remember is that the Inspire is only upon activation. So if I hit an enemy and my Inspire is active and somebody walks into my like aura range afterwards, they will not receive the Inspire healing. It's the moment it makes contact, it calculates who is standing in this ring. If so, you get the healing. Anybody who walks in doesn't get shit. It's different than Lucio's aura, because Lucio's aura is always active when people step in and step out. It's calculated upon that. So people can step into Lucio's aura at any time, get the healing, they step out, they lose it, they step in, they gain it, they step out, they lose it. Brig, on contact, who's here? If my person gets the Inspire and they walk away, they like my Tracer triple blinks away super far, she's still receiving the healing over time. Last part, can you activate by hitting turrets and shield? No. You can activate it on Bob for Ashe, and there was a bug for a time where it would activate on Wrecking Ball's mines, but I'm actually not sure if that's been patched out or not. It's been a long time. 100% that was in Overwatch 1, and I kind of forgot to test it in Overwatch 2, so if somebody knows the most updated interaction, let me know, because that has to be a bug, because like generally speaking, Brig's Inspire should not be activated on any sort of pet or like hero created deployable. That's it for this week's Reddit questions. Thanks for listening to me yap, and I'll see you guys next week.